Welcome back, guys. Today we'll be talking about Nice and the Villefranche-Sur-Mer area. This is going to be another tender port similar to what we talked about in the last video with Portofino. This port, though, had their own boats that were used to get us ashore. And these boats are going to be much larger than what's typically used by the cruise line. And they're a lot more spacious. A lot more people can be accommodated on these boats. There might be some waiting around to get the boats filled just because there's more room on these boats. But I don't think that was ever a problem having to wait around too long. And this time the seas were smooth coming to shore as well as heading back to the ship later when we were done in the day there. But Villefranche-Sur-Mer is a beautiful town right on the water there. Lots of color and some places to eat. There were some vendors with various items right outside the cruise terminal as soon as you get out and make your way up the steps. And we wanted to make sure we didn't miss our excursion because it is a tender port. So there we took the first one available. So we had some time to do some walking around before meeting our tour operator. And it's very quiet. So if you want to get some of those nice photos up at sunrise and videos with not a lot of people in there, getting on one of the first tenders out there is going to be a great time to be able to do and see a lot of those quiet times in the morning. So for this stop on the cruise itinerary, we booked the French Riviera highlights excursion through this shoreexcursionsgroup.com. Again, no affiliation with them. But as I mentioned in prior videos, there's going to be so many to choose from. So just do your homework and take a look. This excursion was in a shared van, and this time it was packed. So were all the others that we saw leave. So we saw a number of vans leave as we were waiting for our driver to get there, and they all looked like they were packed in there. So we had eight passengers plus that one driver for a total of 9 in every van. So, just take that into consideration. If you can't do well in lengthy times driving to each various stop on the itinerary, just keep that in mind as you're looking through those different excursions. The first place we visited was Cannes. We happened to be there during the film festival, so we could see the red carpet set up, and they had the photo area where the driver mentioned before we got there. There's all the step ladders all set up, so all the people get the photos, that area where the stars would stop and take their photos. But because of all the setup and everything was going on, all it was hey, hello real quick as we drove, and we got a few seconds right in front of that as we drove onto the next stop. Which that next stop that we actually got to get out was the Chapelle de la Garoupe, was our first stop. It had a nice overlook, but it was basically kind of a bathroom break stop as well as a stop to stretch your legs and kind of get a nice overlook of that area before continuing on to the next place. Yeah, so the next stop after Cannes was the Saint Paul de Vence. Lots of shops here, a few dining options. I think overall we spent about 45 minutes to an hour, if I recall. If you walk towards the back of this area, there's going to be some spots where you can climb up some stairs, and then you get some nice overlooks that you can see here that I also posted in some of my videos. There's going to be lots of beautiful architecture and things to enjoy. Many of the shops, I think if I recall correctly, there was a good majority of the shops that had a lot of art that you could look through and possibly purchase. But I think it heavily skewed towards art at this particular stop. After that, we loaded back up in the van, made our way to Monaco. But before heading to Monaco, our driver took us to this overlook. And at the overlook, it gives you a nice vantage point down, get some of the views that you see here. And he explained to us that Monaco is the second smallest country in the world, right behind Vatican City. Which was very interesting. I had no idea. So it was a great piece of knowledge there for us. But then after we got some of our videos and the selfies, then he took us down the drive, and it's a long winding road that takes a few minutes to actually get down into Monaco. The time we were here in Monaco as well, they were setting up for the F1 Grand Prix. So they had a ton of the barricades going up, and there's lots of detours happening. Because all the construction they have to do to get that city, that country, race ready for, you know, those large F1 vehicles. So the driver got us out right in front of the Monte Carlo. We were able to walk around for about 10 minutes just because of just the hecticness and busyness that was going on before he, you know, we got back in the van, and you know, he drove us off to, you know, just around the corner. Yeah, so just a few minutes down the road after we got back in the van, we got to a place that wasn't part of the race, so we could walk around and explore. Here there was a ton of shops, little dining spots, the St. Nicholas Cathedral, which is very large and very nice to look at. There's also, we didn't get to go into it because we didn't know until we were leaving, but there's also an oceanographic museum, which looked pretty cool. So if we ever go back, maybe that's something to check out. But there are some nice overlooks of the marina and parts of what would be the race course we could see, and all the grandstands that were being set up. And then last thing, before heading back to the cruise ship, we stopped in Eze. Instead of walking around and paying for access to the view our driver mentioned, you know, at the end of the day, we just opted to stop at Metzvin's Chicks for a glass of red wine and a charcuterie board. And it just gave us time to relax, and then we got to discuss and talk about just the things we had seen that day and some of our favorite things. So it was pretty nice to just relax and unwind before hopping in the van to head back to the cruise ship. Yeah, so that wrapped up our day and our excursion. You know, after that, the wine charcuterie board. But yeah, my thoughts on this one, on this stop, it's kind of tough. So just based on what we got to do and see, I don't think it was in our top places we visited. We did on our trip to Europe, our 2-week trip, got to do a ton of cool places and fun stuff. But as far as this trip, there was on this stop this day, there was so much going on, from the Cannes Film Festival to the F1 Grand Prix. It kind of affected some of the things we could really do. But with that said, as I try to think about those things, not if they weren't there, I don't know if that would change a whole lot in my, you know, honestly. So in my opinion, like, I think if Cannes or the chapel wasn't included, and maybe we got some longer stops with maybe a nice restaurant, some good dining options for lunch, I think it would have made it a lot more enjoyable to be able to try out some of the local cuisine. But, you know, I still loved all the scenery and the things we saw. And our driver was hilarious, funny guy. Talked about, hey, he had driven one of his tours back to their next port stop because they missed it because something was going on and something happened, but that was the commitment they had. So the nice thing about booking through who we did was they're committed to, if they don't get you back in time, they will make sure they can get you back to your ship for the next stop. So that was nice. But yeah, overall, you know, just something to think about. Maybe some of the other excursions may have some different options. So just think about that if you're visiting this area. So yeah, so that wraps up our time here, this location. So, you know, hope you guys are still enjoying all the commentary and the videos. Hit me up in the comments. Hope I can get, you know, just subscribe so you can get alerted when you get some of those new videos that I'm hoping to keep out consistent and giving you some of these commentaries about my time there. So thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.